Now, as I travel and speak to people around the country, I see and hear discouragements in many of them. The God and country values that made this nation great have really taken a beating over the last few years. And when we look at the younger generation, we don't see very many positive signs. Now, I'm pleased that our next speaker is a beacon of light to the younger generation. He is a full instructor with Project Appleseed, educating Americans and reawakening the spirit of the American rifleman. He's leaving for college in the next few weeks and Marine Corps ROTC.
Yeah!
Our generation will be passing away, and we wonder who will stand in the gap when we are gone. If this young man is an example of the remnant that is waiting in the wings, then we can be confident that America will be in good hands. And he's only 17 years old. Please give a warm welcome to Dirk Seymour.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Wild Bill said, my name is Dirk Seymour, and I'm here this weekend representing the Appleseed Project. This evening, it is my pleasure to speak to you about the lessons of the past. In American history, there is one day that stands out above all others that defines us as a people. It was a day that occurred after many years of oppression by a tyrannical government. A day that occurred under more and more laws made by a group of uncaring and distant rulers who no longer cared for their people and were determined to turn their citizens into subjects. This day stands out as the day when Americans had had enough, said no more, and stood. They stood at a place called Lexington Green. The day was April 19th, and the year was 1775. It was the day our great country was truly born, when we stopped being subjects and started being self-governed citizens and free men. Above all, the story of the day of April 19th is a story of great men, men of courage and of honor, men whose names we should all know, remember, and revere. Some of these men you've probably heard of: Paul Revere, John Hancock, John Adams, and Samuel Adams. But how about the name Samuel Prescott or Captain John Parker? These are the men that fought and died for our independence, and it's their stories I am here to tell you today. Let me begin with Dr. Samuel Prescott. On the night of April 18th, near midnight, Paul Revere and his fellow rider, William Dawes, are riding fast towards Concord. British Commander General Gage had ordered his troops to march through Concord and Lexington, confiscating arms and arresting local colonial leaders. Along the way, Revere and Dawes run into a young doctor by the name of Samuel Prescott. At 2 a.m., Samuel Prescott is coming back from courting. He's courting a lovely young woman by the name of Lydia Mulligan. In fact, it's widely believed that that night he asked her to marry him, and she said yes. Samuel Prescott is well liked in the community and obviously has a bright future ahead of him. Yet when he runs across Revere and Dawes, he does not hesitate and immediately joins them on their ride. Soon, they are stopped by a British patrol, accosted by the Redcoats, and Dr. Prescott is the only one to escape using his superior horsemanship skills. He's the only one to continue on warning the countryside, the only one to make it to Concord, and really the only reason that the story of April 19th, the American War for Independence, and our entire American history stands the way that it does today. The choices of one man truly do make a difference. Dr. Prescott escapes the day of April 19th unscathed, but immediately joins up with the militia unit as a medic, is soon captured by the British, and dies a long and slow death aboard a prison ship. He never saw Lydia Mulligan again. Even after he by far did his part for the cause of liberty, he continued to press on, giving up the love of his life, his future with her, his chance of being a father, and and his own life for the cause of freedom. That's the kind of man that made this country what it was. Now to Captain John Parker. I'm assuming that a group of freedom-loving Americans such as yourselves has probably heard of Captain John Parker. See a few nods out there. All right. John Parker was the head of the Lexington militia. He was elected to lead, being an experienced veteran of the French and Indian Wars. None of these colonial militiamen are professional soldiers on the level of the British, but Captain Parker himself has worn the red coat of a British officer. This means he's an experienced soldier, familiar with the hell of war, and knows exactly what he's going to set off to do on this day. That also means he's taking aim at the very uniform that he once wore. That's what John Parker's doing for the cause of freedom on this day. He's also deathly sick with tuberculosis on this 19th day of April, 1775. This affliction 6 months later would take his life as he drops dead on the field of battle, again bravely commanding his troops. But on April 19th, John Parker is a force to be reckoned with, a fact that the British would learn before the end of the day. When the alarm comes to John Parker's door, even at 2 a.m., he's still awake, lying coughing in bed, but he does not hesitate. He gathers his equipment, warns his fellows, and he goes off to fight a war. He musters on Lexington Green with the rest of his men. He's described as standing tall, gaunt and sickly though he was, reassuring his men in the face of mortal danger. 200 British regulars march onto the green, facing 60 of Parker's men, 60 shopkeepers, farmers, and blacksmiths against 200 of the best soldiers in the world. The Redcoats order the colonists to disperse and lay down their arms and surrender. John Parker realizes the poor tactical situation his men are in and orders them to fall back in orderly fashion to await reinforcements and better standing. Needless to say, none of these men lay down their arms. Without orders, the British fire a volley into the backs of the colonists as they are turning to go, and militia begin to fall. The Lexington militia are caught by surprise and slaughtered in the middle of their town. 8 of them are killed and 10 severely wounded. Before the British soldiers turn to go, they fire a victory volley. The colonists watch stunned as they had previously believed the British soldiers to be their own countrymen, supposed to be protecting them instead of subjugating them. These stories I tell to you are mainly about individuals. John Parker, in this case. But there are many others on the green that morning, and every one of them has their own story. Among them were 8 pairs of fathers and sons. 5 of these 8 pairs are separated by death on that morning. Let me pose a question to us as we stand here today. How many parents are here with their children? I'll go ahead and see a show of hands out there in the audience. Pretty good percentage. Now, how many children are here with their parents? I'll count myself among that number. My mom's out there watching me. Look among yourselves. Can you imagine marching off to death with your family, knowing what would happen? I can't myself. That is what our founders sacrificed for us, and this is what we should remember. It's a certain death sentence on Lexington Green that morning, for even if you do not fall in battle, your future is very grim indeed. For the moment you level a musket at the king's troops, you have committed the ultimate crime, treason, and the reward is a short rope in the nearest tree. Can you imagine fighting and laying down your life for something you cannot touch, cannot see, and have never known? Can you imagine saying goodbye to your family, walking away from your home, your job, leaving your life and everything you have ever known behind to lay down your life for something that is a mere idea that you yourself have never seen, have never known, and by now is but a distant memory? This thing I speak of, and the thing that they were willing to give up for us, everything, this thing is called liberty. It's the right to individual freedoms, those unalienable rights granted upon to us by God, whom no man can take away. That is, unless we let them. Samuel Prescott, John Parker, and so many others fought for our liberty and died for it before the war came to its end. They would never know it, yet they fought for it and gave up everything for it. We have it, and yet we let it be taken away with hardly a fight. I myself have it, and I let it be taken away with nary a fight. Captain Parker, for this I am sorry. Dr. Prescott, I'm sorry. All the men and women that have fought for this great country from that day of 19th of April, 1775, all the way up to today, that have laid down their lives, I'm sorry that we've let it come to this. But it's still not too late. Yes, history does repeat itself, from tyranny to rebellion to freedom to complacency to subjugation and finally back to tyranny again. It's a cycle that has repeated since the beginning of time and will repeat until the world comes to its end. And it might even be that we can hear those same alarms that occurred the night of April 18th, 1775. We can hear the bells, far off in the distance though they may be. But a day like April 19th is not yet here. I believe we still have time. Time to wake up America once again. Time to make Americans realize what was once sacrificed for us. It's organizations like Project Appleseed and Oath Keepers that make me think this. And it's people like all of you folks out there that have me know it. A day may come when once again, ordinary citizens have to stand at a place like Lexington Green. But folks, it's not today. We still have time to wake up America once again. We still have time to save a country. I'm going to finish with a brief plug here. The Appleseed Project is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to teaching Americans history and rifle marksmanship. Our goal is to reinvigorate the spirit of the citizen rifleman that our founders held so dear and gave up their lives that everyone would be one. If you'd like to know more, we have a booth this whole weekend in the center over there. Look for the blue Liberty flag flying over the brown canopy. And we're holding workshops at 1100 both days of the weekend. Hope to see you all there. I'm going to conclude with a quote from John Adams, one of our founding fathers and the second president of the United States. On April 20th, 1775, John Adams took a carriage ride along what is now known as Battle Road. He saw the dead, the dying, the wounded, the houses razed, the fields burning, and the militia preparing for war, a war that would last 8 long and bloody years. He took the time to write a letter to his wife Abigail later that day. In that letter he said, "Posterity, you will never know what it cost the founding generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you shall make good use of it, for if you do not, I shall repent in heaven that I ever took half the pains to preserve it." Thank you all. God bless you all, and God bless America.
Yeah.